It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Ernest Hancock, and we're going to be talking about something interesting. Interesting, do I not? Are you not entertained? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about libertarian philosophy on the issue of longevity. Now, you want to live forever. Yeah, well, the thing is, you want a government telling you you can't. I can tell you that. I was like, I vote no on that one. So this is Mary Ruwart, Dr. Mary Ruwart. Now, Dr. Mary Ruwart has been, she's a scientist and an activist. She does a lot of research and things. She got her degree in biochemistry and her PhD in biophysics, and she worked at Department of Surgery in St. Louis University. She's a doctor, okay, but she was on the Libertarian National Committee. She's been an officer in the Libertarian Party I've known her as part of the Libertarian Party apparatus since forever. But she was also, big me love us some Ron Paul person. Well, what happened, Ron Paul, when he was running for president, what are you going to do? Well, FDA, or Surgeon General, or whatever the heck. Mary Ruwart, she's going to go into cabinet. So that kind of accolades. So what happens is she has a lot of understanding in political philosophy. She's written a lot of books. Healing Our World is the the libertarians' answer to progressivism. But you have what has been so refreshing is she's kind. She's nice to work with, she's principled, and she understands what it is to be free. Leave me aloneism. What do you say you do here, government? And providing examples of how freedom's the answer to whatever question. And it applies to so many different things. Well, now she's an officer in, I think you're vice chair. Is that what you are at Liberty International, chair. Mary?
Yeah, I'm chair.
Okay. Oh, you're chair now.
I've been chair for about 10 years.
Really? What was Ken's position?
Well, he was our vice chair of international relations because he is he has an international reputation. My reputation is mostly national, so it's a great mix.
And what is Yasek's position?
He is our president and CEO now. Well,
okay.
I was CEO for a while when I was chair, but we needed somebody that had more time. Really. And but we waited close to 10 years for Yasek because the people we were interviewing, I just didn't think they could do the job. And as soon as we met Yasek, we knew he was it.
Yeah, Yasek. Spendel, is that how you say his last name?
Spendel, yeah.
Yasek was a young man, entrepreneur, that they do a thing called the Arizona Project. And every year there's like 6 to 9 of them. They come to Arizona, and Ernie has to take them shooting. They all got to go shooting. This is the way it is. But they're from all over the world. Ukraine, Nepal, right. China,
exactly.
Everywhere, South America. And what happens is I interview each one of them, and it was one of them. It was I think his name is John, but he was from Uganda, and last November or so, and it was that philosophy of liberty thing. I remember that kind of started them down the road, and I'm just going, man, that thing needs to get resurrected. So Libertas.Earth, we did that, and Mary was part of that discussion, and promoting it, and we're working together on that more. But what happens is that there is an event coming up that's going to be talking about the ethics of longevity and government regulation and involvement and so on. And that's where Mary comes in, is ethics, on medical stuff. So this is like right in her wheelhouse. And I don't know, this is an issue and it's becoming a thing, and there's more revelations, and the high-tech gazillionaires are throwing money at this like crazy, they want to live forever, or because I can. What are you going to do? I got money. I can buy me some years. So what's the ethics of that? Do we care? Why would we care? What? Because there's going to be straw man issues. People are going to come out. But what about whatever the what abouts? We're going to talk about some of the what abouts.
Yes.
But is there an interest in this because you guys have been tapped for this? Your Liberty International. This issue needs to be done. Did you get a check? Or is this just something of interest, or what?
Well, I guess I really am the person that started it, because I am in the medical field. And I am connected to many of the people who work in longevity. And I've been interested in that myself personally for quite a while. So I suggested...
As all young, pretty women are,
Well, anyhow, so I suggested we have a journal and that we start it with a longevity issue. And that will be coming out towards late fall. And it will have papers by people that are actually in the field, as well as a couple papers on people who are summarizing what's going on and some of these ethical issues. But before that happens, actually, there's going to be a couple other longevity events. Now, you were talking, Ernie, about the ethics. And on June 13th, we're going to have a free webinar where several of us will be talking and addressing some of these issues, but also opening it up to whoever comes to the webinar to ask their questions on, why should libertarians care about longevity? And one of the things you and I were talking about earlier is if you can't beat them, then outlive them. That's what Linus Pauling did with his vitamin C. All his critics died before he did, because he had suggested that you take 10 grams of vitamin C a day. And he and his wife did that. So they outlived their critics. Now, of course, we might want to do more than just outlive our critics, because we would like to see some changes in the way the world works. But that's one way to look at it, of course. So we'd like to invite all your listeners to come to that. The thing is,
let's give them a place where to do that. This is sure. Liberty International. Let me pull this down so you can see the web page.
Yes.
This is Liberty-INTL for international, Liberty International, liberty-intl.org. Now you go /contact, and this takes you to the, give me your information page. Mm-hmm. And then the event is in Dallas. Is that where this is?
Well, we have several events coming up. The first one is June 13th. And if you go to the bottom of that page you're scrolling, Ernie, you can actually see sign up for the newsletter. And that's what I suggest that your folks do, because we'll be sending out the link to the June 13th through the newsletter, and they can come. It's free. They can ask questions, get everything talked about. And we'll be talking a little bit about it just to kind of give everyone an idea of the ethics of liberty. Like, for example, some people think, wow, if we all live for a long time, isn't it going to break the healthcare system? Things like this.
There's a healthcare system?
Well, the entire system, really, it could in theory, but in fact, of course, we don't think that's going to happen. We think just the opposite will. But that's, again, a discussion we can have at the webinar on June 13th. And then at Freedom Fest, I'm going to be talking about, I'm actually going to be giving a talk where I give more specifics on longevity, like how people can try to live longer, and also the fact that we have age reversal already in rodents, at least partial age reversal. Now, this is a big deal. This has only been done fairly recently.
How do they track that? That they add telomeres at the end or something?
Okay. Well, one of the things is to increase the telomerase so that they're, taking care of the.
I got to say it right. Now, how do you do that?
Telomerase.
Telomerase,
right. Yes.
And explain what that means, what that is.
So this is an enzyme that really kind of helps your telomeres grow, and you want the telomeres to grow. What they are is they are the end pieces of your DNA, and every time the DNA replicates, that end piece decreases. It's kind of like a shoelace. Think of your DNA as a shoelace, and the end piece being the telomere end piece being that plastic part they put around the shoelace so it doesn't fray. And of course, if you lose that, then it's very hard for the DNA to replicate properly. And basically, that was the first, I think, age reversal in rodents. And then in recent years, there has been a discovery of the Yamanaki factors and how to use them for age reversal. These are 4 different genes, but usually only 3 are used because one of them kind of increases the cancer incidence. And so you've got these 3 factors that are put into mice through a vector. A vector is something that will help it get into the cell and incorporate in the DNA. And what happens is it reverses partially reverses the aged cell to not a newborn state, but something in between. And then because it's younger, it actually does a lot of healing for you, and that's where you get the age reversal in rodents. And actually, Bill Falloon of Life Extension, who is a libertarian, has he's got studies going now in primates to test this so that he can go into humans very soon after that, probably in 2027. And I'll be talking about some of his work at Freedom Fest. And so if anyone's going there, it's going to be Friday, July 10th. And I think it's going to be in the afternoon, somewhere around 2 to 3 that I'll be speaking. It's going to be a breakout session, not on the main stage. But if you're going to Freedom Fest, please feel free to come because that's part of your registration.
Yeah, we've been to Freedom Fest quite a bit. And, yes. We have Skousen come on. Which one is it? Mark Skousen come on and, pimp it and promote it and so on. And they're always, the big thing was, they got Doug Casey, he's like the draw, man. It's always make me more money. And we've gone to Doug Casey's, what do they call it? Epic Society, and not Epic. God, man, the Eris. Now, Eris was goddess of chaos or something like that. And they have, and how the story goes, and this is relevant for this, how the story goes is that, the gods, Eris, you have her come, just, mess up, it won't be no fun party. Don't invite her. When she gets all pissed off, they have some big party, and she has the golden apple, but she writes on it, "To the fairest," and then throws it in the party and lets them argue over who's the fairest, right? So she creates chaos without even going. Well, that's what Doug would do every year. Whoever got the golden apple planned the next year's event. Well, Mark was, one of those guys that, kind of helped with that and did, but he was more conservative. He went the traditional kind of the Republican kind of thing. Well, in the Liberty community, there were a lot of people like Mary that over time were leaders and had the sustainability of sticking around and doing it for the right reasons, or showed that that's what they, they just finger on the button, Shawshank Redemption, time and pressure, or whatever. Well, that was Mark from back in the day, 70s or whatever. And they would, keep him around or keep supporting him and doing different things that he would advance freedom. Well, that became Freedom Fest. And then they stopped the Era Society. Doug getting older and didn't want to play polo in Aspen anymore. I mean, kind of thing. So what happened was he would attend the Freedom Fest. That would be the big draw, and it grew into this thing. Well, it's not necessarily a libertarian thing, but it is libertarian-ish, you know, to get a lot of the information out and who gets invited and who goes. And a lot of times they charge you. I want to pimp my book. Absolutely. For a couple $1,000s, you can come sit here. I mean, you know, that kind of thing. So it is grown into one of the hubs. And for Mary to be there speaking, who's she talking to? Well, it's always gazillionaires, you know, Trump, you know, what the hell, Fortune, the financial, I was on the tip of my tongue and I forgot. And Forbes, you know, so Steve Forbes goes and all these guys, and it is a meshing of this kind of Trumpy libertarian money thing. You know, we're all rich, and now what are we going to do? Well, that's a good place to go. You want to live longer, you know, and then you have a little breakout in the closet over there, and it's like a standing room all around the block kind of thing. I see this coming. So to have a libertarian philosophical look at the issue, the role of government, what we shouldn't be doing, what kind of regulation do you have on this? You live longer, but you get an IQ of 300 or 3, you know, I mean, you know, which way did it go? I mean, you're a transhumanist, you're going into we're going to put a chip in it, you know, and a bionic arm and leg and be the $6 billion man. So these are a lot of issues that come up, and that's what I want to start talking about now. But the big thing is that Liberty International, liberty-intl.org, is an international libertarian free the planet thing that's been around since 69 or something like that. I mean, it's a long time. These are the people that have been fighting the battle while you've been on your screen. Okay, I'm just saying, you know. So you want to have, and then they're starting to hand it over into more international and younger. Mm-hmm. There's another generation coming. But it's important that a lot of us OGs, and I was the kid. I mean, I was always the kid until you turn 65, you're not a kid anymore. So what happened is I'm going, all right, what is the state of freedom and philosophical understanding, which is why we do Libertas.Earth. It's about self-ownership, and, you know, we add that. But in the conversation, you need mature people that understand, that can explain it. Healing Our World book was a great example of the humanitarian vision of freedom and how it benefits people and their health and their longevity and their happiness and their pursuits of leave me aloneism. So freedom's the answer. What's the question? Liberty International. So this is, you know, the person you want to talk to on this issue, and it's not just this issue as it applies to America, to the world. Okay? You see my point? So this is important because it brings up so many other vectors from all different angles of, you know, and what do you do with that 300-year life? I mean, you know, and then what kind of quality does it have? You know, what's the side effects of this stuff? You grow limbs? You might want extra limbs. I have no idea, you know? And should you have the freedom? So I want to, you know, talk on that and let you monologue us, because it's because we always considered you an ethicist on this in the medical field, you know, oh my God, there's a doctor, you know. And one of the debates that they did in the I think it was the 08 campaign, or maybe it was 12, but they had Ron Paul up there, and it was on healthcare, and he's a doctor, and he got 1.3 minutes or something. The entire thing. Yeah. It's not asked a doctor, okay? So it's so messed up. I give a crap about the government. Yeah, well, the government and the FDA and the CDC, they say, I don't give a crap, you know? Oh, might as well tell me the WHO, you know? I don't care. So we're going to decide this without that being a factor. So, Mary, I want you to share with the audience a little bit more of the tech, how close we're getting, how much money, if you know, been on this thing, and how much money has been spent up till now, the gazillions, we'll multiply that times 10, because here it comes, okay? So they're getting close enough, they're actually having impact. And they know from a lot of different things, longevity, there's a lot of little different things, this little, you know, frog you kiss, this rock you lick, this, you know, supplement you take, and, you know, you wake up earlier each day to whatever and beat Father Time and something. So when you do this conversation, the tech that's available and how it interfaces with government. Here we got President Trump comes out, yep, Zipic, ZP, whatever the hell shot, you get to be skinny. We got to have a government plan, and it's on Medicare. What? They get into, I got government fatness drugs being paid for by tax. I mean, damn, that's not going to end well. I'm just saying, in a lot of things. Yeah, exactly. So this is where I want to go with this issue, because it is, if not now, it will be very important. How much money are you willing to spend for more time?
Well, actually, it's coming down in price because this has been going on for some time. But the FDA does not recognize aging as a disease. So if you want to get, some type of drug or device that will, increase your longevity, you have to be very specific. For example, David Sinclair at Harvard and his group were able to reverse some blindness in mice. And so they're going into humans to do that, even though the technology they're using is the same technology that is used to reverse aging in mice. Because they can't say that they're going to reverse aging. But when this aging is reversed in mice, it's not that their age doesn't change. I mean, seriously, their age is reversed. They become younger. Their coats get their color back. Their fragility goes away. I mean, this is true age reversal. So
does it fix male pattern and baldness?
Probably.
Boom, man, you're going to have a big market. Oh, yeah. I want to get my hair back? Well, yeah, that's all you had to say.
Probably. Well, actually, yes, because in some cases, the mice did grow hair back. So, yes, I think that's a possibility. But I wanted to address the point you made, are we going to be living longer but crippled? No, it's just the opposite. The health span is going to increase, and that means we can be productive for longer.
Health span, that is a good word to remember.
Mm-hmm, yes, and that's the word that's being bandied about.
Of course it is.
Yes, so that's the word that's used to describe the impact of all this. Now, actually, there have been some things going on in humans, like the study that David Sinclair is doing, but we also have Liz Parrish, she's the CEO of the company she founded, BioViva, and what she's doing is choosing to do genetic engineering on genes that do two things. They help children who have a genetic disease, and of course then will live shorter lives, and using the same technology, the same gene, to extend life. And the reason she's doing it that way is she figures the way the children are going to be able to afford this genetic enhancement is because a lot of aging people will want the same genetic enhancement, and they will, by using it, they will be bringing the price down. She is one of our speakers that's going to be on November 7th, and also one of the contributors to our Liberty International Journal. So we're going to have her in person, and so that'll be in Austin, Texas, and it's a donor-only event, but we do have an option for people who aren't now our donors but would like to be a donor for a very reasonable price if they would like to come in. We expect to have 80 to 100 people, maybe a few more. I think we might get a few more. Because we have a lot of people who are actually working in the field coming in. We are going to review the theories of aging. Walter Smith, who's an MD, will be doing that. I'll be talking about Bill Falloon's work. He's,
wait a minute, you're going to review the series of aging? What did you say?
Oh, these are researchers in aging, people who are actually doing the research that are coming in. Is that
okay?
Yes.
And just so everybody gets all smartified, I'll show you what she was talking about. It's called aglet, the end of a shoelace. So the thing is I want to get this understood before we go further.
Mm-hmm.
Telomeres, whatever.
Yeah,
at the end of it, it's kind of it's a strand that kind of ties at the end of the DNA. And every time you replicate, and all your cells are, I don't know, every 7 years or something like that. But whenever you replicate this, that gets shorter. So my question is, one, why? And two, why was it there to begin with? Was it like kind of like a God put a timer on your life or something at the end of your DNA?
Some people think so. Yeah, some people think so. I think, but we have been able to increase telomere length. Liz Parrish is the first genetically modified human. She's taken her own medicine, so to speak, and her telomeres have increased greatly because of she's put in a gene that will help extend her telomeres. And that's one of the things she's put in. There's also follistatin, which is a muscle gene. And, we have children that don't have good muscle growth because they're lacking a gene the follistatin gene that in full, that it isn't present in them to a great extent. And so actually some of her YouTube videos shows a child having trouble getting up the stairs before the treatment and then actually being able to walk up the stairs after the treatment. So, this is really cutting edge science. And that's why we're having this event in Austin, because, it's fun to read this stuff, but to actually hear people who are working in the field, and we have quite a few of them, it's exciting, and the ability in a small group to ask them questions is just invaluable.
Well, you've spoken at our Freedom Summits before and so on, and the thing with the Freedom Summit, this is what we found. It's a thing called the Dunbar number or something, and it's about 120, 150 people. After that, you start getting fragmented in the cliques and the whatever. It really comes down to how many relationships a human being can maintain physically, in a sphere. So it's your tribe, okay? And when we do the Freedom Summits, you get at least 80 or so. You're having a pretty good interaction. Yeah. Everybody gets to talk to everybody that wants to talk to anybody, the speaker of everybody, anybody. Well, then you get up to, we saw it, when we started to hit about 200, 220 or so, that started to break down. And so then you find out later, this Dunbar number thing, that we had witnessed. So when you do these smaller events and you have these quality speakers like this and you're interested on that, you get to ask your questions. Okay.
Exactly.
You get to interface. You get to have dinner. You get one of your meals. And that is why this is such an opportunity for such a great experience on this issue that you may be interested in.
Yes.
And everybody's interested in longevity when they're coughing for air. But I wanted to go back to the telomeres. I still want to know. I keep hearing that all the time, and you add it. Why? What the hell does it do? What is the composition of the telomeres at the end of it, and what's the impact? I got longer telomeres. Like say, look, I increased the length of my toes. So what? I did. So how does it impact longevity?
Right. Well, because the telomeres get shorter every time the DNA replicates, that limits the number of replications, or think of it as repairing replications that your body can do. What happens is some of your cells are going to start dying. That's what happens. And the telomeres are important because if they're not long enough for the DNA to reproduce your cell, then you start getting very frail. You start having the diseases of aging, which none of us look forward to. And so when you can lengthen telomeres, and there are tests to tell you if your telomeres are long or not, so you can actually measure this. And Liz Parrish measures hers, and I think she was getting a few years for each year she was living for a while there. And she looks great for her age. She's 55. And if you go on YouTube, you can see how she looks. And she looks great. But she hasn't even...
And what's her name?
Liz Parrish, Liz, And then Parrish is Parrish. And she's got lots of YouTube videos. It's great. Go ahead and listen to them. And she's the CEO of BioViva. So it's BioViva. That's her company. It's a capital V, the first V, and one word. And she's got a really important thing going. And I know she's working on ways to bring the cost down. And what happens is she has technology with her BioViva that she licenses out to groups that want. There she is. Yes.
And that's 55?
Well, I don't know when that particular one was made, but she's 55 now.
Yeah, she kind of favors Nicole Kidman, so it's kind of,
Yes, you're right. Yes.
She's not a bad poster child. I mean,
no, she's not. She's good. And for the cat lovers out there, she is a pet lover. She's got dogs and cats, and sometimes
make her live longer. Save more cats.
Well, actually, pets can make you live longer. I mean, this is kind of an easy.
Are you a cat person?
I'm a cat person, yes.
Yeah.
But I can tell you dogs do that too. Companionship. And the thing is, we love our pets. I think when we express love, that is actually something that changes our hormone balance in a very positive way. And I think that's why people tend to live longer when they have companion pets. Of course, people generally live longer if they have companions of any kind. But
yeah, it's called a wife that does everything for you. That's what it is.
Well, it can be that. Yes, men live longer when they're married. I think
that's right. Got a Donna? You need a Donna.
But that's okay. I mean, things change all the time too, so you can't really generalize. But it is kind of fun that our pets do help us live.
What was it that got you? I mean, of course, there's always personal self-interest on this. You start to see, hey, we can help this along, and it was one thing. A friend of mine wrote a book, and he said something like, as long as you can have in a year a treatment, a therapy, a method, a diet, exercise, whatever, that in that year you can increase your life another year, you live forever. I mean, you just keep whatever technology or efforts that you take in for longevity. If you can just, eke up go a little bit faster past it or slower or whatever to where you're living longer, because the trend in the United States was like doubled the average age of humans, in a century or what. But then it's kind of plateauing, starting to go down. We got a chemical for you. We don't want you to live anymore. Take your vaccine. So I'm like, oh, the kill shot. So you'll own nothing and get your happy shot. Yeah, so this is, and if we have our own happy shots or we want to, I don't care. This is one thing. It's like the drug war. When we were activists in the 90s and so on, you go to church and, you're about the drugs and this, and I go, man, I don't care. You want to snort Clorox, that's on you. I don't want people lying to me, you didn't tell me this was Clorox. I mean, so it's force and fraud. And what is the ethics when it comes to government, to regulation, to somebody, because they love us, You need more fluoride, we love your teeth. Government loves my teeth. I mean, it's just the idea that I'm leaving these decisions and delegating this to some, even RFK Jr. No, thank you, I'm good. But is there room for regulation here? Is there something that somebody can advocate for, or just leave me aloneism on what? And what is it now? Are they suppressed?
Yes.
You're learning how to live longer. You're so freaking not allowed to. Where's your government permit? Okay.
Well, yes. In Liz's cases, she's had to go offshore to do all these treatments because it's illegal to do it in the U.S. And that's
okay. And their reasoning for that is what?
Well, it's not FDA approved, and the FDA isn't going to approve it anytime soon. And I'll give you an example that Liz told me about. Basically, she did a dementia study where she put the Klotho gene into 5 patients with dementia. She did it offshore, and all of them improved. So she went to the FDA and said, I'd like to do a U.S. study, a bigger one. Here's the pilot. And what they told her is, oh, you can't do that unless you do $8 million worth of animal studies first. Well, why would you do animal studies when you've already seen results in people? And there was, safety. I mean, there was no adverse effects. So,
well, even if there was, I want to talk about that. So what? They go, you take this drug and you're a sexual Tyrannosaurus Rex, but you lose all your hair. Okay, I'm good. But, they're going to make the decision for you. And then they get in the right to try stuff. Then they get into, assisted suicide, or you can off your stuff. All this stuff is just, I need your ethics around government's role in this.
It has no role. I mean, it should not make those decisions for you. And people want to make their own decisions. That's why right to try was passed, but it's not working. And the reason it isn't working is because for two things. One, if a drug hasn't been approved by the FDA yet, then it's in clinical trials. And many times the pharmaceutical companies are not able to make large enough batches of the drug at that stage because, it hasn't been approved, so they don't have this big assembly line and everything. They're making it basically on the desktop of their lab. And so there's not enough always to give people. But even if there is, the drug companies are hesitant because they know that if the FDA finds out that they gave that drug, and they will, that the FDA can punish them by delaying evaluation of their products. And in some cases, the FDA has gotten so upset with a company that the CEO has had to quit. That hasn't helped. I mean, the CEO quit in an effort to allow the FDA to change its attitude towards the company, but that didn't help. I mean, and the FDA does not like small companies or private, or single investors. For example, Patrick Sung, he has a cancer drug that is now being licensed by, sounds like just about every company, every country in the world, because it's supposedly is really effective, but in the U.S. it's only available for bladder cancer, and it's available as an injectable into the bladder, which means it's really hard to use it for other cancers. And so this is a big problem. Cancer patients in the U.S. want it, but it's very hard for them to get it because Patrick is kind of like the Elon Musk of medicine. So he's a genius. He's using his own money in many cases to do these trials because they're very expensive. It costs about $2.5 billion to get a drug to market these days because of the FDA. That's a lot of money.
Let's do this.
So that's the ethics of it.
Here we have Diamandis is introducing her. Let me see if I can get it back to the beginning. Come on. Don't be a penis. Now that's Peter Diamandis. Now this is the X prizes that they do. The Anasari X prize for the spaceship that go to space civilian thing. Medical tricorder, to be light and diagnose everything in space, and we got Star Trek sick bay, and you got so. Doing the longevity thing, I'm going, here they go. A bunch of these guys want to be living longer and so on. What's their ethics on this? They've certainly had to answer this and approach this issue, and I'm sure you guys will interface and they'll send you a memo and you said it wrong or do whatever. But so the power and the push behind this, it's always some rich techie guy wants something, and okay, I'll let you buy it too because I don't care. I just want it. So, what is the elite in the scientific field? The guys, the gazillionaires. What's their ethics on this? How are they approaching you with this issue?
Well, if you say approaching me, if you mean me personally or LI, they aren't. But what they do is something very valuable. Just like only the very rich were able to buy automobiles when they first came out. And now pretty much most people have an automobile in the U.S.
Well, I want most people to get a flying car. That's what I want. I need out here. So
well,
it's coming.
We probably would have that if we didn't have all the regulation, but and waste our money on other things. So what's happening is by testing and promoting and trying these products, they will eventually be bringing the price down. Although, frankly, I think the things that Liz is doing is going to bring the price down faster than that. But the fact that there is a demand by people who are affluent to get those treatments, which I think now are in the low six figures, that means that her company can go and keep working on a way to bring the price down and to introduce more of these and to be more efficient. And so really, people who have money are really driving this, basically this invention, and trying it first so that by the time it gets down to the average person, it'll be well tested and it will be a lot less expensive.
What is the treatment? How
well, there's several treatments. Yes, there's several treatments. So there are ways to activate telomerase to protect your telomeres, but using these, I think the future is the Yamanaki factors. Right now, that's not what Liz is doing. She's doing something a little different. I don't know the details because, of course, it's proprietary, but the Yamanaki factors are what was used to reverse aging in mice. And Bill Falloon of Life Extension, who's a libertarian, is now testing he did a bunch of rodent testing to get the exact right formula that he wanted to use to put into primates. He's putting it in primates now. And like I said, I expect that maybe next year he'll be putting it into humans. He wants to move pretty quickly because he has a lot of people who have been with him for many years since he first founded Life Extension that helped him out when the FDA was trying to put him and his partner in jail. And
what was the reasoning for that? What's the motivation for the FDA to give a crap? Who told them to give a crap?
Yeah, yes, that's a whole story. So what the FDA did is they had a SWAT team, and they went into supplements.
You mean a real SWAT team, hot guns and stuff?
A real SWAT team.
Damn.
Yeah. And what they did is they would forcibly enter doctors' offices, supplement stores, even pet companies that were trying to put vitamins and stuff in their pet food, and Life Extension Foundation. They went into Life Extension Foundation, broke a bunch of windows to get in, and they told Bill Falloon and Saul Kent, the founders of Life Extension, that they were going to put them in jail for life. And their attorney said, well, you better negotiate and do a plea bargain because you can't beat the FDA. And Saul and Bill said, the hell with that. And they went on. And the reason the FDA was coming after them in particular was they had brought CoQ10 into the United States. Now, this is something your body naturally makes. and it was, in Japan, it was a prescription drug. So the FDA felt like they should have it as a prescription drug in the US. Now, CoQ10 has a very valuable use with some drugs. For example, statins. If you take statins for any length of time, you risk getting muscle cramps and muscle weakness, but CoQ10 prevents that. And the reason it does is when the body breaks down the statins into something that it can excrete through the urine or feces, then it uses CoQ10 in order to do that process. So, of course, it depletes your CoQ10, which is really important for a number of functions. And so one of the things, obviously, is to help muscles stay in good shape and not give you cramps and pain. And so really, anybody who is taking a statin should be taking CoQ10. And, it used to be that when this information first came out about 20 years ago, the doctors did start recommending it. But I've talked to a number of my friends recently who were put on statins, and their doctors did not recommend CoQ10. And frankly, I think it's borders on medical malpractice not to tell your patient that CoQ10 is a good idea when you're taking.
Now, how the hell? They don't even know. They just do whatever the farm rep tells them to do, and get their boat. I get it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the farm rep doesn't tell them about CoQ10, but if the doctors have been reading any papers, well, that's it. The doctors don't have time to do that anymore. The whole medical practice thing has changed over time. You may or may not be aware of it, and your listeners may or may not be aware of it, but it used to be that doctors practiced on their own, and they were kind of like detectives in the medical field. They would, if something wasn't working for a patient, they'd try something else, and oftentimes they would be looking at not just drug products, but what we would call natural products. In fact, when I worked at the Upjohn Company, we were making a lot of natural products, and pharma companies were some of the first ones to put vitamins on the market. Why? Because they could make them in great bulk, because that's what they did. They manufactured things. And even today, a lot of supplement companies are getting their supplement base, they're in bulk from a pharma company, because again, the manufacturing is there. Although, of course, there are more options today than they were back in the days when I started with the Upjohn Company. So the 1962 amendments, as I detail in my book, Death by Regulation, really sort of outlawed the whole supplement industry by making effectiveness testing necessary and expensive. So supplements, really can't jump that bar. So they can't make any claims, for disease without triggering a letter from the FDA and then possibly enforcement. Now, they don't have the SWAT teams anymore, and I like to think it's because Saul Kent and Bill Falloon won their case against the FDA, and they won it by going public and talking on radio shows, maybe even on television a little bit. And so
what was it they won?
The FDA, I think, had 32 counts against them, any one of which could have imprisoned them. And
for life. And life extension, guys, that's a long time.
Well, I don't know that each of the 32 had their own count of, their own time in prison. So, but what happened is, because Bill Falloon and Saul Kent wouldn't compromise, the FDA, and they were getting really popular talking about CoQ10 and making the FDA look really bad. And so the FDA kept coming back with multiple offers and saying, well, if you'll just plea bargain to these 2 or 3 counts, then we'll dismiss the other ones. And of course, they wouldn't go for that. So finally, the FDA just had to quit. And
what are they, libertarian activists or something? Why wouldn't they? What was their motivation? Principle? They're one of them people. I mean, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, of course, they didn't want to go to prison, and they did want to fight this and make it public, and they did. Yeah. And they won, which is really, I mean, that was very courageous of them, because their attorneys told them that, they couldn't win, and they didn't believe that. So. And also the SWAT teams stopped about the time that
by request, by part of the settlement, or
no,
it's not working.
There was no settlement. I mean, they just withdrew the charges. FDA just withdrew the charges.
They didn't give them any money or anything.
No, I don't believe so.
And fix their windows? Of course not.
No.
They just gave all their guns to the Park Service. Now they're a SWAT team.
Well,
God.
I don't know. All I can tell you is that the SWAT teams kind of stopped about the same time that, Saul Kent and Bill Falloon were winning their case.
I just want to say a lot of these cases, and I've been doing, freedom activism, a long time, and I'm telling you, it's only, they say, well, not one person can change the world that's the only time it ever happens. It's people like this that just, no. You say no to government enough, you wind up dead. I'm not paying that parking ticket. Oh, you got a warrant out. We're going to say, I'm not going. No, you're dead. I mean, this is government. It's force. And to have people like this is what makes this leap forward. It's not, I mean, it's about longevity. I'm sure that's, people, it's not about that. It's about freedom. It's about the right to be able to control you. Whose life is this?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's mine. It's self-ownership. Libertas.earth, by the way. So I'm going self-ownership, and this is the issue. And who better than to have, Mary Ruwart, Dr. Mary Ruwart, kind of, navigating the narrative on this to be able for us to, one, understand what the issue. It's not FDA approved. We don't give a shit. Since when do they give a crap about me? All they want to do is make sure I don't have cavities. Of course, I walk around with zombie because of it, but that's that's a side effect. No, that's not a bug. That's a feature. So this is why this is important. It's not just that. So they go through this. They challenge the FDA. Blah blah blah. Who dismissed? They ask for a dismissal. The judge finds out you're done. Screw you, and go about your business and do whatever. But now, did they have some kind of in the settlement, did they get some kind of deal or
not that I'm
leave me
aware
alone
of.
as a decree or something?
No, but I can tell you that the FDA has not come after them again and probably won't. And I think they can push the envelope a little more than some supplement companies. I don't know that they do that, but I suspect that they have more leeway, whether they use it or not. It's hard for me to tell sometimes because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Yes,
there is. So the leaders in the field on this that you have, is it one treatment? Is it a bunch? Or is it the issue? I mean, what is your involvement on this?
Well, the treatments vary, whether they are used multiple times or not. And, there are things that an individual can do outside of these treatments that can help you live longer. Unfortunately, like the best treatment is caloric restriction, which very few of us want to do. So one of the things that Life Extension does is it does support some research, and it's supported some research in looking at common drugs that might give the same genetic profile manipulation as caloric restriction. Now, I'm not knocking caloric restriction. It is really the time-tested way to go.
Okay, now caloric restriction, you're just saying not eating. I mean,
well, you
put down the burger, fat boy.
When you eat, you have to eat high nutrition things, because if you don't, you won't have the building blocks that your body needs to stay healthy. So it's not just, okay, I'll eat ice cream and potato chips and but I'll eat small amounts and that's all I'll eat. That doesn't work. No, you have to have, mostly probably vegetables, some fruits, protein, and you need to be, like I said, restricted. Now, there is a diet that I have tried, and I think it's probably the closest thing you can get to caloric restriction without hunger. It's the zone diet. And what it does is it balances your hormones by giving you just the right amount of protein, fiber and carbohydrates and fat. And so if you're interested, any of your listeners are interested, they can go to zonediet.com. I know Barry Sears, who is the designer of this diet. He also is the person who brought fish oil in a big way to the U.S. Now, his fish oil is very pure. In fact, it's more pure than the prescription prescription fish oil that the FDA has approved. So not all fish oil is created equal. If you take fish oil, you want to get the best because it's so easy to oxidize, which means it goes bad. And you may not realize it if you're taking a capsule because you won't taste the difference. So he has capsules and liquid. I take the liquid because it's more economical that way. And I take a couple teaspoons at least a day. And this is Barry Sears. I think he is, his marketing hasn't taken off the way other people have actually copied his work and claim to be, the 40-30-30 people. Well, that's actually what his diet is. He was the original. He was the original fish oil person. And the science, I actually understand the science behind it because he was working in the field of prostaglandins. And at the time I was at the Upjohn Company, we were the industry leader in that. We gave out so many samples of prostaglandins. We used to have a graph that showed that the number of samples we gave out resulted in an increasing number of published papers, because of course we always ask if the researchers would please publish their results, no matter what those results were. And so Barry Sears actually came and visited us when he was developing his ideas. I was a junior scientist at that point in time, so I did not get to meet him, but I did find out about him later. And as I read his books and how he talked about prostaglandins, which are now called eicosanoids, so you may have heard that term, I realized, I really realized he and I were thinking along the same lines, because what I was trying to do, I had a patent concept that I put together that if you could balance the eicosanoids, and of course the way I would have done it at that point in time would be to actually inject them, because I'm in a drug company. That's part of what we do, is we look if we can make a drug out of it. And I had a patent concept that you would live a longer life if you could balance your prostaglandins. And that's what the zone diet is supposed to do. It also results in less insulin resistance, which is, I think, a major player in longevity. If you get insulin resistance because you eat too many carbohydrates, which is very easy to do in the American diet, you will eventually get insulin resistance. And I did see a paper once that if you wanted to live beyond 84 or 5, you had to make sure that your insulin resistance was low. What happened is, as insulin resistance climbed, the number of people died, and the only people that survived were the ones that kept their insulin resistance very low down here in the 80s. So that's something.
Insulin resistance low. Get to it. Tell me how. Tell me how. What do I got to eat, Mary? I'm dying.
Okay, you have to eat less carbs, and so again, you want to have nutritional diet. So probably want to eat more vegetables, less potatoes, less bread. That kind of thing. And again, if you go on the zonediet.com site, they'll explain all this and how to look at your meal and figure out how much you can eat.
Okay, with this observation, a lot of these things in our diet, and you say, "Well, America, we, because it's corn and wheat. I mean, this is the way it is." And with a little glyphosate, you gotta get that, harvest yield up.
That's another good not to eat bread.
So the thing is that I had one of my grandsons had a skin condition. I mean, he great kid, healthy, whatever, and all of a sudden, you get little rashes and stuff like that. And I remember sitting him down and I'm going, "Well, what are you eating?" "Well, it was Honey Nut Cheerios every morning." I said, "Well, you can kiss those goodbye. I'm telling you, here it comes." Well, of course, they go to the doctor, have them fill out what they're eating and so on. Didn't even do a test. He said, "Stop eating Cheerios for a week and we'll see what happens." Goes away. Yeah. And then we find out that wheat and corn, especially wheat, first thing they do right before they harvest it, they glyphosate the shit out of it so that it dries and gets up and they can get more yield in the harvest.
Exactly.
And I'm going, you're doing this right before we got... What kind of crap? Where's the FDA on that one? So this is, and all these lawsuits are going back and forth. So for me to think that the Uncle Sam is there to save me, no, they've been captured a long time ago. This is done. So we order and get our stuff as your standard. We get a lot of clean flour. We take an organic this that. Now the word organic don't mean anything anymore either. I like to call it virgin food. I go, I need some virgin food. Organic. No, they just keep changing that. Uncle Sam. It's like they changed the organic definition. Like organs. Uncle Sam going, "Oh, let's go put the tip in. Don't worry about it. It's just a little bit." And I go, "No, I need virgin food." Now, Uncle Sam ain't been around. He kept his pants on. Now I didn't even see him. I mean, it's just because it's so manipulated. Every word is changed. Every natural this, organic that. Well, it's USDA approved organic. Like I give a shit what they say, you know? So this is the issue of longevity is going to come down to what you put in your body, what do you do to your body, and how you repair what you did to your body. Yes. So the technology that's coming, it's always like fusion. You know, it's 30 years away. It's 30 years away for 60 years. So this is longevity. Where are we at in the tech? Now, we're now definitely somebody at 30 years old, we can get you, 10 more years, 20 more years of what we know now, and next year we're going to give you 40 more? I mean, how close are we to seeing actual big results?
Yeah, well, actually, we're closer than one might think, assuming that these experiments that Bill Falloon is planning actually do reverse aging in humans. That would be a big thing, but there's other ways to reverse aging because, you know, basically a lot of the stuff that Liz Parrish is doing is age reversal. I mean, when you put these genes in and soup them up so that they are, for example, helping you have muscle in your older years, because that's muscle wasting is one of the problems, then you are essentially getting the ability to live longer and increase your health span, if nothing else. So
health span.
Health span. Yeah. And I think we're learning more about, you know, what supplements and some drugs. I mean, there are some people taking metformin, for example. I was talking about how Bill Falloon had helped to fund studies with looking at drugs that had a lot of the genetic changes that the caloric restriction did. Metformin is one of them. It's an anti-diabetic drug. So one of the nice things about that is it's going to help you with insulin resistance, which we talked about a little while ago. And also, a lot of people are taking rapamycin. It's an immune drug, immune suppressing drug used in transplants, but at the dose that they're using it, it's not immune suppressive. But what it does is it does help, you know, it has a similar type of pattern. So that's a possibility. And we're getting more and more of this all the time because this is something that is being looked at in a number of different ways. If Liz Parrish is able to bring her prices down, that type of help is going to be much more available to middle.
Well, what is her treatment? She's, you know, licking a frog, sucking on a rock. I mean, what? She's
putting specific genes in the body.
Well, how do you get genes in the body? You don't go to Levi. I mean, you know, how
it's the same. Okay, it's the same way that David Sinclair put the Yamanaki factors, which are genes, into his mice. You use a viral vector, an attenuated viral vector, which means it's not infectious. It just simply goes. It transports the gene into your cells, and it picks up that genetic manipulation. Of course, we had something similar going on with the COVID vaccine, but we had no control. What happened is they changed the manufacturing process of the COVID vaccine before they did widespread distribution. And they had, because of the way they did the process, they had a bunch of DNA fragments in there. And then they chewed them up with an enzyme and made the DNA fragments smaller, which makes them easier to incorporate in your own genome. And there are people who this seems to have happened to, and they're still making spike protein 5 years after getting the vaccine. And of course, they are very sick. So you don't want to do the wrong genes, but we do know how to put genes into people. So, you know, and
now, well, they've done in the last decade or so, they've had where they do gene therapy to fix some kids long-term kind of whatever, and it actually did it. And I'm like, damn, here we go.
Yes, that's right.
Now they want to mRNA my lettuce or something. You know, Bill Gates has got a plan for me.
Yeah, that's very dangerous. See, this is the thing. You know, if you put stuff in people's food, Some people are going to eat just a little bit of it, probably won't affect them, but other people are going to eat large quantities of it, and side effects are going to happen. I mean, this whole thing, even with the COVID vaccine, if you think about it, normally when we get a vaccine, we get a measured amount of antigen put into our arm. In other words, we know exactly what we're getting, but we didn't get that with the COVID so-called vaccine. We got a measured amount of instructions to our body to make the spike protein. Now, once that gets into your cells, it depends on the health of the cell how much you're going to make. My theory, and it's just a theory, I have some evidence for it, but not any evidence I would say is conclusive. So I saw studies of Great Britain's people, and if they were over 80, the vaccine had no effect on them in terms of immunity, helping them resist COVID. They got COVID at the same rate as a non-vaccinated person. But as you got into the mid-range, the 25 to 60 group, you started having a lot of side effects. And then when you got into teenagers, especially active, athletic teenagers, they got myocarditis. So that was pretty. So my guess is that as we went into younger and younger people, more spike protein was manufactured. See, we're not getting a measured dose of antigen anymore. The antigen is the spike protein, and when we get that injection, we don't know how much our bodies are going to make. And if they make a lot, we're going to be overdosed, and then we're going to have side effects. This is why that technology is so dangerous, in my opinion.
Okay, and that technology is the capability of something to go in and rewrite you.
Yeah, that technology that they use for the widespread distribution is basically has the potential to be a gene therapy, and in some people, it almost certainly has been.
We did, we had our vaccine education summits that we did in 16 and 19. And it was, we had a lot of doctors that had not, been together. I mean, it's like, Dr. Mikovits, Dale Bigtree, Sherry Tenpenny,
Yes.
on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was one doctor, the first one that we did, and what was his name? Yeah, I think it's this guy, Thomas Cruzel. He's a naturopath here. And, he really didn't read the room, but he came in, he was advocating for longevity and health using vaccines as a delivery mechanism for, some of the things that you're talking about. Well, everybody was polite and it was good information and everything, but I'm just like, man, I'm trying to get away from this vaccine thing, I don't know what's up.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a use case for a lot of this stuff, and this is the point about libertarian perspective on this thing is like, whose body is this? You do what the hell you want. I don't give a crap. Well, it does this. Yeah, whatever. Don't lie. I mean, we'll get you for force and fraud on that. But so that was kind of our first foray. When that was 10 years ago. So it's not like this hasn't been around. And the one thing that we can look forward to is that when you have like Mary involved, I'm like, hopefully I'm not getting a commercial, Hopefully I'm not getting a paid lobbyist registered for kind of whatever, and you need more fluoride. So this is why I wanted to have Mary come on and talk about this and give us where we're at now. And of course, you never ask a woman how old she is. She looks 29 and a half. No. So this is a motivation of I just turned 65. A month ago. I mean, looks like I made it. But at what quality? The biggest thing for me is just being on the land, out fresh air, eating honest food, I've lost like 35, 40 pounds. I haven't been under 200 since the early 90s. My kids don't even remember me when, not chubby. And I'm like, I'm like at 202, man. I'm almost making it. I'm just, and because we had Mother's Day, so just pork down on, crap. So I took a couple of years off my life there. But what happened is I had some Thai food a couple of nights ago, and that was it. For like 3-4, I wanted to do a 5-day fast. Because whenever I do a 3-day fast, I just feel better, and it resets a lot of things, and your body does a bunch of stuff. So I want you to talk about fasting. My experience has been fasting is not just to lose weight, or it's to reset something. And like you're saying, caloric intake, the reduction in that creates some environment that does something. Now there's a blockchain for that. I mean there's a drug for that. I mean there's always there's always a drug for it or a blockchain for something. So I want you to talk about that. When you say they're the mimicking of that, what is that? By fasting, you're clean, because it's a biblical thing. 3-day fast on a regular basis, kind of whatever, and you feel better because God said, damn it, So there's your reason. But we need to know, what's the mechanics of that? Would you, Mary?
Yeah, sure. So as you get older, especially, you get an accumulation of what we, in the lay term, call zombie cells. And what these are cells that are no longer functioning as we would like them to. They're really not doing their job anymore. And usually what happens in a healthy body is that they realize they're not doing any good, and they sort of kill themselves, the suicidal zombies. But as we get older, though, that suicide part doesn't happen. It's called apoptosis in the scientific terms. You might have heard that with response to fasting, because fasting accelerates that process. So if you can fast, not only do you get a form of caloric restriction, but you also get a cleansing, if you will, of the body in that respect. I feel I've been kind of fortunate because I'm considerably older than you are, Ernie. I'm over 10 years older than you are. And I've been...
Oh, you're still hot. Whoa! Mary's got it going on. She did something. Here's her secret. All right, tell us.
Well, actually, I can tell you a little bit about that too. Well, I've been, of course, I've been playing around with longevity things too, but I probably look about 10 years younger than I am. That may be partially genetic. My whole family looks pretty good, but anyhow, getting back to your zombie cells, that's what fasting does for you, if you can do it. Plus, it gives you some caloric restriction, because what happens is when you start eating again, you don't tend to overeat. You don't eat quite as much as you did before. So if you have a healthy diet and you're fasting, you're helping your body clear out that stuff. Now, I have a little harder time fasting than a lot of people do, because my family has the genes for diabetes. And one of those things that happen is it becomes very hard to control. Well, it's hard to fast because your blood sugar can crash, and that creates a problem. When normal people fast, they don't have as much of a crash. So that hasn't worked for me, but I feel like my body has done okay because of other things that I do. Obviously, I'm doing something right. I don't have...
Yeah, I vote you did something right. So you're good.
I don't have as much. I can work out pretty heavily still, and there's a lot of. As I get older, of course, I do have more issues, but my issues are relatively small compared to others in my age group. So, knock on wood, I hope that continues.
One of the things, when you get older, you try different stuff because you try different stuff. Uh-huh. And the only regular thing that I think that, I use colloidal silver for everything. I mean, that's first aid. You do that, boom, I guarantee colloidal silver. Just say it. For what? For everything. Just whatever. You get a kind of first aid of colloidal silver, and I'm sure there's a great reason why it works, and we've done shows on it before. But I don't care. Colloidal silver, man. Just saying. But then, whenever I get here in Arizona, you get a lot of vitamin D if you allow yourself.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's everybody's wanting to put sunscreen on and so on. I'm going, well, I just get more freckles. I mean, just get over it. But the point is that it's you start to get dark spots and so on. I have one on my forehead I've had lasered off a couple of times, And so I'm trying a cream now just because somebody suggested it, and I, whatever, and I don't really care. But it's you want to worry, skin thing. You all of a sudden, oh, you got it's not a tumor. I mean, so this is you don't want to. You can worry yourself to death too about different things. But the main thing is when I get any kind of an infection coming on, a cough. I mean, just I just get a zinc tablet. You just chip off a little bit in your teeth. I just keep it coated, or colloidal silver spray. They both kind of do the same thing for the same reason. It's an ion exchange of like something. So I just do that, and boom, I haven't gotten sick. I think I've been sick for more than half a day, like twice in 15 years. It's just really. But there's a cleansing part of that. You feel better afterwards. It's like your lungs get repaired. There's some kind of a cleansing thing that goes on when you get sick. And that's what a lot of people, they call it terrain theory. There are no microbes. Viruses, that's imagination. Well, there's a case I think it's in Europe. I think it's Germany or something, or Netherlands. There's a case to where part of the discovery and the evaluation of some malpractice, whatever the heck's going on, is they're having the prosecution have to prove that there even is a virus, that there can be, that they exist. And I'm going, okay, not that I trust the court, but I mean, that at least is an issue because this is coming up. What we're learning about health and longevity and quality of life and all this stuff, you didn't get from General Mills or Kellogg. I'm just saying, okay? So this is, the research. It's like, cigarettes are good for you. I mean, also now nicotine is. So you never know. And if salt's bad, wait 3 weeks. It'll be good later, So this is, it's so who do you trust?
That's a very good question. I think it's very hard for even a scientist to tell. And so the layperson is really, has difficulty. I tend to go and read the scientific papers if I can on whatever it is that I'm interested in and learn about that. But it's difficult. It's not easy.
This newsletter that you're doing, and let's go back over here and show them what's up. You go to Liberty International, which they do a bunch of international liberty stuff. Oh my goodness! But you go to the contact page at the top there. You click on contact or /contact, liberty-intl.org contact, and then you can subscribe to the newsletter. Down here you go. All right, and in that newsletter, it's all about longevity. You're focused on that. It includes that.
Well,
what is it?
It basically tells you what Liberty International is doing, and we're doing quite a bit. But it's not just longevity, but what you will find from that, and the reason I encourage you to sign up is we have several longevity things going on. One, June 13th, we're going to have a big discussion about why libertarians should care about longevity. And of course, we'll have...
Okay, now wait a minute. Why should libertarians care about longevity? As a freedom issue, or as we need to outlive them so we can take over and set you free, or what?
Yeah, as any issue, really. There's people who object to it. There's been objections based on religion. There's objections based on the fact, or the supposed fact, that the healthcare system will break down with all these older people around. But as I explained earlier, of course, we're increasing health span, not just the length of time that we're on board, and that means we can be productive. So I don't really think that's...
Well, maybe those you're getting in the middle of their killing off everybody down to, half a billion.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
You're doing it wrong. We don't want them to live long. Well, we want us to live longer, but we got a happy shot for the rest of the people,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the scary part for the layperson. Like, when the COVID shot came out, I realized, because they talked about it, they had, they didn't have much testing. They had like 2 months, whereas the normal real vaccine, not this fake vaccine, so to speak, had 2 months of testing versus the 10 years that you normally see, which is probably overkill. But I just felt like I was healthy enough that if I got COVID, I would survive it, even though I was in the dangerous age group.
Right.
So I didn't take it.
Can't scare Mary.
Well, I mean, I knew there was a possibility I could get really sick, but I felt like I had a better chance of surviving that than surviving an untested vaccine. And as time went on, I really was grateful that I didn't, because one of the things our family has is cancer. And evidently this shot actually,
Turbos.
in some people, can create more cancer, which is not something we need, because like 80 to 90% of my family, and I'm talking about my entire family, on both sides of the genetics, die of cancer. So we have some screw up in our immune system or something. And so, that's not something I like to toy with, taking things that are carcinogenic.
Right.
So,
okay, now in the newsletter, in this longevity focus here, is that how much is that going to occupy Liberty Internet? Because it's a good issue. I mean, people you're always looking for issues that are educate people on the principle that they have actual. Everybody's on their deathbed. I mean, whatever, and it's also the biggest thing is I got one time is. The real goal of life is when you die, 'cause everybody's going to die, you don't die filled with regret. Regret is and as I get older, I'm always pinging back in my mind to, something I said or did, or how I treated an old girlfriend, or I did something, said, and
Sure.
being teenager, stupid something, and those come back. Well, I have to repack them, take that memory, well, what did I learn from that? What made me a better person? Kind of realizing I'm really sorry for that, and maybe they remember or don't, but it regret and repackage it and put it back. What I learned from it.
Yeah.
So when you recall that memory and you bring it back, I keep doing that because I hate regret. Regret sucks.
Yeah,
so a lot of my activism and things that we do on these issues and advocacy of liberty for everybody, so I get some, is really that. Because if you can, with great ability comes responsibility. Well, this is Mary. She knows she can write. She can articulate this stuff. She can advocate and do it. And if you don't do it, then God, I should, I could have. It's kind of
exactly.
regret. So that is, so I know on the Myers-Briggs, whatever, Mary's going to fall under the, compassion of the, humanity kind of thing. And this is what drives us. We're starting to find out it's a lot of these character traits. And I'm wondering if these treatments, they look on side effects for a physical response or side effect. What about emotional? What about mental? What about, processing information and so on, cognitive abilities? What kind of impact does it have there?
Oh, well, that's actually a big piece. And, we actually at Liberty International feel like we're pioneering in this area because we have a couple of different iterations of the emotional, mental, and mental freedom course. And we, it's a beginner's course for the most part.
It's not a shot? Here, get this shot and you're a libertarian now?
No. It's but what it does is it deals with the fact that we have these regrets. We have things that happen when we're children that we don't even know are driving a lot of our decision making. And so we try to set the stage for people to explore that and then give them some practices they can use to deal with it and change beliefs if they want to. So that's one of the things we're doing. And again, if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll find out about these courses. And of course, you'll find out more about my talk at Freedom Fest. You'll find out more about the November 7th event, which if you can get to the Austin area, I really encourage you to consider that because, we're going to have longevity experts that can really answer your questions in depth. And we're going to have Liz Parrish. We're going to have Greg Fay. He does thymus regeneration. Thymus is a gland. It's in front of your heart, and it basically does control a lot of things, but it atrophies, basically once you become an adult, and it does so many wonderful things that you might want to be regenerated. And then we've got, of course, we've got our other board member, Jose Cordero, who's probably going to talk a little more about immortality, which is different than longevity.
I have the power. Okay.
And yeah, so anyhow, there's a lot of things going on. I'll be updating you on what Bill Falloon is doing, and
so this issue is going to be, I don't know, a front and center, but certainly part of the repertoire, and used as a draw, used as an example, used as a what you say you do here government thing. I mean, why this issue is moving up? Because it's popular, because it belies the role of the state, or I mean, why?
Yes, well, I think we should be interested in it because
oh no, we're all interested in it. I'm just wondering why.
Our most important property is what? Our body, right? And like my mom said, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And that's pretty true, because if you're sick and you feel crappy, you don't get anything done. So you can't really enjoy living. So
health extension, Now you guys where'd that come from? You guys pimping that?
Yeah, health span increasing. Yes, that's really what longevity is about. It's not about extending.
Yeah, blah blah blah. Health span. Where did that word come from? Who made that up?
I'm not sure, but it's in the literature.
How long has it been in the literature?
For quite a while.
So it's a thing, okay?
Oh yeah, it's a real thing. I'm not making it up.
Health span. Health span increase, health, whatever. So this is, it's good marketing, and I think it's an issue that's going to. Now, how does that interface with people going, transhumanist, you're trans something, and I'm going, well, I'm not putting a chip in yet. I mean, probably not. But does this integrate into that issue at all?
Well, it can. I mean, I'm not a big proponent of that. I think it's too. A chip is something that might be pretty easy for someone else to control. So I'm not.
They wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong.
Yeah, so I'm not excited about that idea for myself. I mean, if somebody wants to do it, I guess that's their choice. If for them, there could be instances where you get a chip or you die, then you might want to consider it. But that's not something I would do as a longevity strategy.
Yeah, no. If it makes me see, walk, hear, something, whatever, whatever, that's why, freedom's the answer. What's the question? But, this is, I see it as it's got legs. This is a good issue. And who do you want to popularize the discussion?
Yeah, you want different. Yeah, libertarians, obviously. And the thing is, libertarians really are ethicists. I think we need to maybe reframe the way we talk about ourselves. We used to use the term that liberty was moral, and and it is moral, but moral has sort of a religious connotation. And I'll tell you, back about 10 years ago, I actually created a medical ethics course for North Carolina, and it was very interesting. I was able to put a lot of libertarian stuff in there that probably no one else in the ethics community would do, because the ethicists, yeah, they get big bucks for really not being ethicists, in my opinion. Really, libertarians are very strong ethicists. And, we might want to reframe ourselves that way to some extent, because, we actually can cite chapter and verse of why we believe what we believe. And, we have the non-aggression principle, which I may have shared this with you before on another show. This isn't something people embrace naturally. When I lectured in colleges and high schools and talked about the libertarian philosophy, before I opened my mouth about what a libertarian was, I put three things on the board. I put the minority should rule the majority, number one. The majority should rule the minority, number two. And everyone should rule themselves as long as they didn't initiate physical force, fraud, or theft against another, number three. And I ask students, what if you got the opportunity to design your government, how would you, which one of these would you choose? I almost always got number three. Very few people voted for the other two.
Of course, never tossed out Earth, by the way.
Go. Yeah, and then I'd ask them, how do you think the U.S. government operates today? In my 10 years of doing this, 10 times a year, I had one student say that they thought the U.S. government operated by the non-aggression principle. So, kids are not...
I want to talk to your parents, boy. They work for the IR. Because I've done the same thing. We have, schools that we would go, usually they're private schools, but we would go and do the libertarian thing, like Rick and I and, a lot of the guys, we'd go do this, Greg. And when we go in, there was one guy, he's going to come to find out his dad worked for the IRS. So we're like, we're done, so I get it. So this is I remember, we had advocates for self-government was a thing. Yep. That was, kind of training, they had the Nolan chart kind of deal, which they kind of keep fudging around and changing stuff. And, we'll reduce taxes instead of eliminate, kind of trying to shut up. I don't care what you say. So this is classes learning how to advocate for this stuff. This is why your book, Healing Our World, was so important. It's how to talk to the progressives, the liberals. Freedom is, like you were saying, is a moral question. It's you own yourself or somebody else does. I mean, peace out. And I've used that on, I had a show and was a producer on Air America, during the Levolution and right before from 5, 6 to, 8, around in there. And I'm on commie radio. I mean, they're, the only overlap we had was whoever supported Dennis Kucinich, and Ron Paul were anti-war. I mean, that was about the overlap that we got. But I go to anyone, I say, imagine I put my hand on your shoulder. Whose life is this? Well, it's mine. Welcome to the club. I mean, we're done. But, a lot of times, society and the majority and it takes a village to rule your children and, whatever, And this is a universal, everybody's going to die. Everybody wants to be healthier. Everybody wants to, and the government's going, what's good for our ratings? Put that weight loss pill on the list. If you get a freebie of whatever, vote for me. So I'm going, they care about my weight. There's going to be some Zieg Heil, I comply side effect or something. They always act in their own self-interest. So what do you think the side effect is of this push for this weight loss? And what the hell is it? I don't even know what it is. Is it a peptide, an amino acid? What does it do?
Yeah, basically, it can create some pretty huge side effects, which is why people can't stay on it very long. I hear mixed reviews on it. I guess it depends, if somebody has a good experience or not. But if they stay on it very long, they can have all kinds of problems. And I'm not real familiar with every problem, but basically usually it's GI, it's in the gastrointestinal, it's, something, they can perforate, they can have some pretty serious side effects.
I just went up to Prescott. There was an event that had, Derek Brose and Larkin Rose was speaking up there, and we were promoting, and Don and I went up to, hang. And my sister lives in Prescott. So called her and said, hey, we're going to come stay over and, hang and whatever. And she goes, oh, yeah, I have two sisters. It's me and two sisters. And she goes, yeah, Sherilyn, your other sister, she's coming up the afternoon. Great. Get to see all of you, and I haven't seen you in a while. Well, of course, we're in the valley here down in Arizona, and we stay in touch and, whatever. I love my sisters. But I haven't seen they're both younger sisters, but one's just a year younger than me. I haven't seen her in 3 months or so, holiday stuff or something. Yeah. And I didn't even recognize. She had lost like 60 pounds or some ridiculous kind of like, what the crap? I'm all right, stand up, turn around. What was that? Well, it was some experimental naturopath of, diet shot thing. Well, all right. Well, how long is that going to go on? What do you got? And she was touting all the benefits of not being so heavy. And and she just kind of gradually, kept getting heavier, as she got older. But then she gets down to about weight. I mean, she wants to lose, a few more, but I'm going, damn. Well, she goes on of all the benefits of not being, heavy with, stuff that does that. So the balance is we don't know yet. This has not been long enough to really have an impact. What do you think that? Well, you have President Trump. Yeah, we're going to put it on Medicare. You can get some. And I don't eat as much McDonald's anymore since whatever. It's not their role. I don't.
Right.
And who do you go to find out the studies? Where is the research? It's like they just got arrested. Felony charges. Get them in Europe somewhere somehow. The guy that was supposed to have been accurate on the research of it was a COVID thing. No, it was autism. They're going that vaccines were causing autism, and he pocketed the grant money, didn't really do it, just told them what they wanted to hear, fraud of whatever. And this is based our health policy here in America on all this autism that's happened, the epidemic of kids and whatever, and it's because of this lying sack of shit. Well, he just went off there, he finally get him. So who do I trust? The FDA?
It's very hard.
The CDC?
You don't trust the government agencies. I mean, I was telling my family, don't eat margarine back in the 70s. I mean, we've known about, these fats, these hydrogenated oils that they told us were so healthy. And of course they weren't. And we knew that back in the 70s. So there's no excuse. The government, and medicine in particular, it's about 20 to 30 years behind the research. That's why I was so excited about having this November 7th event with real researchers in the field of longevity, because not only are they looking at their particular area, but they know about other people who are doing other things. And so they'll be the ones to answer your questions. I mean, even as a scientist, it's hard because the studies change, and a lot of the publications now we're finding don't have reproducible data in them. There's a politicization, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, of science to some extent. And that's partly because the government actually uses our tax dollars to support a lot of research. And of course they pick what.
Right. They pick what they share with you and what they can profit from and exploit you with. Yeah.
And I was on, when I was a young person, a young scientist at the Upjohn Company, they brought me in to be on one of their granting boards. Actually, they did that a couple different times. And what I saw there was really kind of, it was frightening, because the people who had really original ideas did not get very high scores for their grants. And that was partly because they had people who probably were getting the grants on chairing these sessions, and they kind of gently pushed the newbies like myself into another direction. And I felt like this was kind of orchestrated, so I didn't want to have any part of this. So I stopped going to these things, and maybe that was a mistake on my part. Maybe I could have made a difference, but I didn't feel that at the time. So, there are people who are entrenched, and of course, we saw how much the people who are in power, so to speak, like Fauci, can really change things. In fact, when I was working in AIDS research at Upjohn, what happened was I knew things were screwy because they were approving AZT, which had lots of side effects, but they weren't approving drugs that had been on the market for a long time, didn't have much of the way of side effects, but were actually saving the sight of these AIDS sufferers. And the FDA refused to approve the drug. So, of course, it wasn't reimbursed by the insurance companies. And
is this getting better or not? I mean, this kind of awareness, the internet, is it getting worse? Is it getting better? Is there alternatives around the world? You're international. I mean, what's up?
Yeah, people are more aware than they used to be because of the internet. Unfortunately, governments are still pretty entrenched. And as you know, it's not so easy to change what they've done. In fact, if you followed the Doge
I don't want to change it, I want to ignore it.
Yeah. Well, if you followed the Doge story, and I mean, there was so much corruption. It was almost unbelievable. And then all of a sudden that when Elon Musk left that, I guess it continued for a while, but I think, then Trump went and basically took all those savings and spent it.
Right.
On the budget.
We need 1.5 trillion for the war. This is, I think someone like Musk, with the influence that he had, and he gets in and sees it's not fixable. You're not going to fix this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a parallel society that, it's kind of like Paul Rosenberg always goes on. We need a parallel society.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're building. Here on Occupy the Land, we take, communication, decentralized mesh networking, satellite, whatever, energy, decentralized. I got 3 power stations here, 2 is 1, 1 is none, and 3 is like 1.5. I mean, so you have the food production that we're doing. We're increasing the storage area. We're doing alternative building, yada, yada, yada. Why? Because I want to be able to be more self-sufficient in what the freak is coming, because here she comes. The beginning is nigh. Well, when it comes to longevity and health, that was one of the things that we had to prototype and test a few years ago when we built our first prototype up on a friend's Porter's farm in Washington State. He goes, yeah, you want to do you over there. Go and you build your dome all you want, and, it's mine now. And I go, absolutely, boom, done. So we did that. Okay, this is cool, this technique, this works, whatever. But what was I testing? Not just the building technique, whether I could even freaking do it physically.
Yeah.
Can I maintain my strength? Do I pull the bar? I can't lift. Do I mess up my back? And I felt better by the end of the summer. Woo, man, I got a grip strength. I'm going to make diamonds out of pencil head. Come over here. I said, so this is just also about us. It's about our bodies. It's about our health. Right. It's our health span, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is, which of course equates in a quality of lifespan. So I want to emphasize that Mary is very excited about November's event. If you go to Liberty-INTL for international, Liberty-ITNL.org, then you put at the top, it'll have contact. You go to get on the newsletter. Yeah. And the reason is because these issues is going to be important to freaking everybody. Who the hell do you believe?
It's tough.
Who do you believe, Mary? Where did you get this kind of information? When we did the Vaccine Education Summit, naturopaths were dropping like flies. They were just off. It's like the UFO whistleblowers, man. They just keep dropping.
Right. But the best source, I think, for the layperson is lifeextension.com. That is Bill Falloon's group. They sell supplements, but they also have a magazine that comes out every month, and you can search the whole site, and they actually have protocols. Like if you have a particular type of problem, they have protocols you can follow to take care of that. So I think that's what I would recommend for the average person. I will say that I want to leave you guys with an easy fix, if you will. You were talking about vitamin D earlier, and vitamin D is actually a hormone. It's very important. And I think when you're out in the sun, you actually get a better quality of it. But you can also take vitamin D3, and you can check and see how much you have. The ideal amount in your blood is about Well, it depends who you talk to, quite honestly. I think the range that you normally hear about is 40 to 80 nanograms per ml. I think the high side is a little better, and I try to keep mine up because it's one of the advantages of having a high vitamin D is, well, for example, it helps prevent cancer, and that's a big issue for me. Also, there's been studies on longevity with it, and the guesstimate is 2 to 4 years extra of life if you can keep your vitamin D level up. And if you can't keep it up naturally, then you can take supplements. And if you take a supplement, you want to take vitamin D3. What you're measuring in your blood is 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is a metabolite of that. I mean, it's, in other words, a breakdown product of that. Your body has to transform this. And you take D3 because if you don't take D3, if you take what we used to take, which is just straight vitamin D, a lot of us can't change it to D3, which is what you need to make the other transformations that help you in your body. So I would say take vitamin D3 until you can get your blood levels up to approach 80 nanograms per ml. And Life Extension actually has blood tests that you can get without a doctor's prescription. They provide the doctor. And so you can actually test for vitamin D in your blood to make sure that you're on track. And likewise,
one of my sons is in his late 30s, and he lost a lot of weight too, but he was always an athlete anyway, and he's starting to get that dad bod. No, hell no, he's not doing that. So he was looking ripped, and he has teenage son and daughter that are athletes, and they go to the gym and whatever, and he can't have his 15-year-old son kicking the crap out of him, so that's just the way that is. So what happens is he found it where you could get a blood test done for like $60, and I go, I just paid almost $200. Where's that place? And that was cash. So it's I did a blood work about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And just to get a baseline, I'm getting older, and Dr. Tamber, a good friend and co-host of Trump Report, and so he hooked me up, and we go over it, and everything. Okay, high on cholesterol, whatever. Which was that good, bad, whatever. So everything's looking pretty good. Then I did another one just last week. I got the results. So it's pretty much the same. I got a little bit more here, less there. I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to get that baseline. But the thing was, what I learned from as I get older, my older friends, they're in Sun City, they're retired, they have vitamin D, D3, I think it was, and then you get the omega fish oil, that, and you get. And the one thing that it was explained is that the reason you get sicker a lot of times in the winter is because you're low on vitamin D. Yes. And, then you get the, like my son-in-law used to live before he got married to my daughter. He said, oh, man, it's like, I came from Seattle to Phoenix, and my whole attitude totally changed. Holy crap, Then we have friends that come visit from New England, come here in February. They've been all winter in the freaking, Arctic Circle or whatever. Right. And they come down to Arizona like, damn, well, that'll change everything. So we started supplementing with vitamin D. That's when I stopped getting sick. Doing the zinc thing, that's when I stopped getting sick. You do some magnesium and potassium, whatever supplements, and then you start having better muscle work. You don't get cramps as much and so on. I was always getting leg cramps. So it's this little bitty stuff that's what? That's been sucked out of our soil and spraying with the whatever the hell, and you're not getting. Well, where's the heirloom seeds? And you got to make sure they're heirloom seeds. They just keep rebranding everything. So it's who do you trust? You need to have someone that's looking at this kind of stuff, evaluating, and probably have a tendency to not lie to you. Okay?
Right.
Saying,
that's why I like Life Extension. Also, they have a third-party testing for their supplements, so you know that what it says on the bottle is what's actually in it. That's a big issue. It's the supplement area. And also, they have sales, and in the fall, they have their super sale, and so everything is a certain percentage off. And then I think they they may still have their blood test sale on, and you can get a whole panel. It's pretty reasonably priced compared to what your doctor might charge you. Of course, you got to check. And
yeah, there it is. Lab test sale. Get 25 off 250 plus lab tests. We look at everything.
Yes.
AI is going to take care of it for you. You know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to do that. Of course, you might need help interpreting it, but you know, the good news is that you can call Life Extension up and they will actually interpret your test for you. And they will also tell you if, based on those tests, you might want to take some other supplements. And we talked about,
that was one thing I want to say this. When I looked at this last lab, before I had to, well, I don't think I requested get it, went to the doctor, and that I paid for it. I want it, So the you can do the option. Now they're much more decentralized and more responsive to the customer. Because of the internet, and I can go look myself, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, man, Dr. Hate her, she comes in with, a ream of paper of all the research that she did to check and come to find out she had Lyme disease. She was like, man, I got some problems with it. So they working on that and making her a lot better. She was going down. We were worried there for a little while, but she did her own research.
Right. You can do it on the internet. That's the thing. Of course, it's hard to know sometimes, what your sources say.
Which is why Mary.
Well, which is, again, you can read the actual papers that these things are based on, but sometimes the language kind of throws you if you're a layperson.
Well, sometimes you got fraudulent researchers get arrested for, faking the damn research that changed the planet.
Also, if you just read the abstracts, you can get fooled. Like during the COVID, what they did is they had the first study that came out on pregnant women. The abstract said there was no problem with the COVID vaccine in pregnant women. But if you actually read the paper, which I did, what you saw is when they divided the women into different trimesters, that the first trimester had, I think it was an 82% miscarriage rate, which is...
What?
Yes.
Holy shit.
And the second and third...
Murderers.
Third trimesters didn't have that. They didn't have a significant problem. But when you put them all together, because they had fewer women in the first trimester, which is actually the most sensitive trimester.
Right, of course.
And you put them all together, then, it lost its significance. So this was really a total lie. That paper has been rewritten, I think, 4 or 5 times now, but they can't get rid of that table.
That's one thing that we found out with Dr. Hooker. That was autistic child, anyway, part of the vaccine thing. And he kept hammering on the CDC. And what finally happened was a whistleblower inside the CDC kept the papers that they put in the burn barrel.
Exactly.
He put it in the safe. He goes, I'm drinking one night. He calls Dr. Hook. Hey, man, I'm clearing my conscience. I got, do a freedom of information request at this address. They'll make it to my desk, and then legally I can give it to you, and I'll be playing Pong in the basement for the rest of my career. So, which is what happened. But, he'd been part of, not clean hands anyway. He's trying to get redemption. He found God or got threatened by or something. I have no idea. And it's just, I don't trust these institutions because they always get captured.
You shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't because... Well, actually, too. I recently read something. I don't know how accurate it is that the CDC is actually connected to the World Economic Forum in a very strong way.
No, that'd be wrong. Man, you're not. Who are you talking to? All right, so this is. Hey, we'll wrap it up here, but I wanted to make sure that you got to, spend some time with Dr. Mary Ruwart. Her accolades in her past and research, philosophically, author, understands these issues and applies them in a libertarian way to where freedom's the answer, what's the question, and how moral it is. Well, ethics, but I'm telling you, it's just, first, do no harm. Rule 1, don't be a dick. I mean, and this is how you can apply this philosophy to everything, and longevity is going to be an everything issue for everybody, for everything, especially as you have the wealthy people. Ha ha! I get to be 200 and I rule you. Oh, yeah, what about the plebes out here? Well, you just need to know what rock to crush and what frog to lick, and, maybe you'd be good too. What they don't want you to know. You're not allowed, So these guys are vampires. I mean, literally. There was a Terran Lupo, a good friend who's a chiropractor, but he wrote a book. It was Blood Nation or something like that. And it was all about, a guy's in a coma 20 years, he comes back and everything, and all of a sudden the whole world had changed to where the biggest currency was young blood. The kids, man, they're getting rich because they're selling their blood. Well, where do you think this mythology of vampires come from? I mean, these elite bad guys doing bad stuff, they're bad. I mean, like freedom, good, and bad, and with bad people because you put a brass ring for them to get, and they go get it, and I got a shiny badge, I'm in charge now. And listen to me. How about not? Who do you listen to? People that you can trust. Liberty International, that's spreading the freedom message all around the world. You want one world government? We give you one world evolution. Here we go. Let's play. And that's why we're so supportive of them. And we've always appreciated our relationship with Mary and Ken and, Yasik and Liberty International. And they're part of the club. They're us. And this health thing is going to be an issue, and we need to have the discussion on the ethics of it, because when it's something popular, firemen are popular. It used to be a private thing. Police popular. Libraries are popular. Weight loss is popular. Longevity is popular. Whenever anything is popular, the government runs in front of it and says, oh, well, this is what your taxes does, and they just excuse to extort a whole bunch more from you. And they don't do it well. They lie about it, and it's all to propagate their narrative of bullshit. So I'm telling you, the future is about credibility. That is where it's going. All the Mockingbird crap, all they control, all the $7,000 influencers say something nice about Israel. I mean, all that goes away when you know where to get accurate information.
Mm-hmm.
The studies. Mary's going to help you with that.
And
so go to Liberty International, do the contact thing, sign up for the newsletter, and don't be the last to know. Just say it.
Yes, and we appreciate you too, Ernie. We need everybody. We need all the different things we're doing to really make the world work the way we can envision it. I mean, there should be no need for anyone to starve. There should be no need for these wars. Really,
abundance.
Exactly.
The world is abundant.
Exactly. And part of that abundance, of course, is living as long and as healthy as we can. So I hope I've made a few inroads in that with you guys today, with you and your audience. And of course, you can reach me at my website, ruwart.com, RUWART.com, and I am on social media too. But the best way to get in touch with me is through my website, because I get a special flag on that, so I won't think it's spam.
Right. I sent you an email, Ernie.
Yeah.
Did you make it past the bulk delete? This is it's just such a pleasure to talk to someone like Mary that I don't feel like I'm being bullshitted the whole time. I mean, it's just uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. Well, when you got some credibility with someone, and that's why initially I'm going, all right, who's paying you on this one? I've got, but and I don't care, but it's the support that you and your organizations get is because of this kind of information, taking on these ethical issues, opening it up to people to come and talk about it and add their perspective, because this is how, in the way the internet used to be in the 90s, you would have like a little email list on whatever issue or something, and libertarians dominated. You want to have an argument? Man, libertarians can argue over how many libertarians can dance on the head of a pin all day long, So this is, and it's always for the win. Win. Whatever, Second Amendment issues, freedom, First Amendment speech, issues, right of assembly, search and seizure, jury nullification, I mean, on and on and on and on. Libertarians got an answer. You got an answer. I remember a talk show host, they go, you libertarians think you got an answer for everything. Yeah, freedom's the answer. What's it? Backhand, exactly. You guys. Yeah, So what happens is, as time goes on, you started getting the trolls, then the bots, and they started infecting this. So as time goes on, then you start looking at, oh, well, they're popular. They got more hits. They got more subscribers. We got the past. I don't even care. I mean, look, screw them. And the thing is that credibility. Where do you go for the truth? Where do you go for information that is not, so seeded with self-interest of somebody of something paid, Israel's paying influencers $7,000 an episode to say something nice. I'm like, well, of course, why not? So this is going to be, health is one of the issues on, our decentralization advocacies and so on. And more than anything else, you own your body. That's you. That's your ultimate property.
Exactly.
And if you don't understand that, and what role does the government have? I don't know, force and fraud. They're going to make me or prevent me from doing something and lie about it. Go get them. Those are the people they don't get. I mean, government, how's it working for you? Government doesn't work. I want my money back. I mean, this is it's that simple. So thanks for coming on, Mary. I wanted to share that with the audience. This is my perspective of working with you guys, because credibility. Who do you believe?
Thank you. Yeah.
Mary Ruwart and friends, just saying. All right. Thank you very much. Ruwart, it's RUWART.com, right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, you go there and you can get direct contact with her, and you want to be in contact. But the main thing is a contact at liberty-intl for international, liberty-intl.org. Get the newsletter. How often do they get that, and how much is in it?
Oh, it depends. It varies, but it comes out like every couple of weeks. So,
there you go. How much does it cost? It costs money?
No, it doesn't cost.
No, it costs your email though. Just saying. But we
don't overwhelm you. We don't overwhelm you. But actually, we do have, like I said, it's not just the longevity that we're doing. We've got the emotional and mental freedom course. We've got other courses too, like short answers to the tough questions that libertarians are often asked and things like that. So who build
the roads? I tell you, out here in the desert, me. This is my road. We can get over it. Hey, thanks for coming on, Mary. We could go on all day. I got another show, but I really appreciate us just getting to yak it and everybody know that we're, I'm very supportive of anything that you do. When I see Mary Ruwart's name on it, it's always, hey, they're here at the party. They're here at the club. They're here on this issue. I feel better. There's people that, rule one, don't be a dick. Well, Mary Ruwart is not that. And it's always an ad. Be an ad to your community. Mary Ruwart. Dr. Mary Ruwart. A big ad. Thanks for listening. Peace.